Welcome back, beautiful people. To know your rights is to know the totality of what's going on. But one may not be able to see the totality of what's going on if one constantly allows the animal nature that exists within a person to hold them back. If you ask most people, what do you think about slavery? They'll go, slavery is real bad. But we're not for that. I'm not for slavery. In that same conversation, you will ask them, what do you think about the whole concept of someone being an alpha? The whole animalistic impulse of an alpha male or alpha female. They'll tell you, oh yeah, someone has to submit to the other one. Oh yeah. And then you tell them to make a comparison between slavery and that concept that they hold on to. You realize that slavery is just someone who decided to be the quote alpha and enslave everyone else. Yet the everyday man and woman are doing it on a microscopic level against one another. People are confused about what they want. People are hypocrites. And then if you go as far as to ask them, where did you even get this concept of an alpha male or alpha female or someone who's beta? What does that mean? Where did it really come from? Do you know most people would not be able to tell you or explain it to you beyond some pathetic banter? Then you quickly realize most people would rather just go with what makes them comfortable, so long as it justifies their animalistic impulse. And that said animalistic impulse is what's ultimately holding them back. Rights and the comprehension of the totality of what holds these rights that people have, what holds it back. People really actually don't know beyond just saying, hey, I'm going to designate someone as the bad guy and then I'll just play the role of the good guy. Everyone is busy role playing. That's what most people out here in this world are doing. They are just role playing. Some people are out here wearing fezzes, but they don't really know anything about their culture beyond some bravado of calling themselves one thing. Some people are saying there are some certain status, but they don't know anything about the operation of law. Some people are saying they're indigenous, but they don't even speak the dialect of said indigenous people, because culture isn't a language. If you speak the dialect, it would automatically lead you to the laws and customary laws of whatever it is you claim you are. People are hypocrites. Okay, yeah, sure, English is a conglomerate of many different dialects. Okay. Now, many people who speak English don't even know the derivatives of it when they read law or the legal things relating to law. That's written in English. There's another helping hand. In the past, we've spoken about the Incorporation Doctrine, specifically on the patron page, and how it is implemented into this Bill of Rights, which is the first 10th Amendment, and how corporations use it to their benefit, and how it's implemented into res judicatas, stare decisis. Stare decisis deals with legal principles. Res judicatas don't necessarily deal with legal principle, but more so contractual matters between parties in the past, so that the same error or issue is not brought into question later in the future. The Incorporation Doctrine is a res judicata. Stare decisis deals with any given situation that's not specific to any given party. Res judicata is that things on a state level will be synonymous and homogenized that on a federal level. And this thing called Incorporation Doctrine, aka res judicata, has its origin in the 13th Amendment. After the whole Civil War era, the whole Reconstruction series of events. Here's an evidence of the Incorporation Doctrine that we've spoken about in the past. Here is what it looks like functionally, whereby the United States Constitution is homogenized with the state version. This language exists in every state. General provisions, they statutize it and they call it U.S. Constitution Amendment Act. Title: This act may be cited as the U.S. Constitution Amendment Act, meaning it's relating to the U.S. Constitution and the amendment thereof. Whenever the Congress of the United States of America has adopted a proposal to amend the Constitution of the United States of America, meaning whenever they attempt to amend the Constitution on a federal level, and the mode of ratification thereof prescribed by Congress is by the legislatures of the several states. Now, keep in mind, the United States on a federal level is made up of what? It is made up of each state. Each state come together to make the United States. So each state are not independent of the United States as people talk about. Now, each state are independent of the quote United States in the sense that they can still exercise their own state level jurisdiction without the treaty of the United States Constitution coming in contact with their independent commercial activity. But if each state's independent commercial activity was to somehow affect the totality of the treaty where each state come together to make up the United States of America, if there is any conflict between each independent state's commercial activity and the treaty of the United States where each state come together, then the coming together of each state will supersede the individual state. This is where there's a doctrine that says where there's a conflict between the United States Constitution and the state, the federal always wins. That's what that means. In other words, it's very much like a room filled with people. Think of the Congress, and each body in that room represents or signifies each state. And one state is saying, hey, I want to do this, or this is what I'm doing. The quote United States, which is totality of each body in that room, all of them, can go against that one state and say no. It's like a vote superseding one decision. That's the reason why wherever federal quote laws are in conflict with state quote laws, federal always supersedes, because the quote federal constitute Maine, Texas, Missouri, South Carolina, all the states. Now, assuming Arizona says, well, I want to do this, and the rest of the other states are not saying, yeah, you can do that, that's fine, then automatically the rest of the other states supersede because there's more of them. And Arizona is part of that treaty called the United States Constitution by way of the Articles of Confederation and Association, which are both perpetual, which are the predecessors of the United States Constitution. If those are annulled, the United States consequently is annulled. So once more, the reason why federal related stuff usually supersedes the state, in some case they run concurrently. They can exercise their own independent jurisdiction if it favors their commercial activity. But if there's a conflict, the reason why federal always wins or supersedes is because of the conglomerate of the other bodies compared to just one state within that binding treaty called the United States Constitution. So each state has joined a contract that they cannot get out of, whereby if others don't agree, oh well, too bad. Hence, federal quote laws will always supersede state laws where there is conflict. They're telling you whenever the United States Constitution on the federal level is amended, and the mode of ratification thereof prescribed by Congress is by legislatures of several states, meaning under any circumstance, if each of the state is involved with said ratification, which of course is inevitable, in order for the United States of America, and it's found in a document called the Constitution, which is adopted from the Articles of Association and Article of Confederation, and other things like Airports Confederation. In order for it to be amended, obviously, the representatives called the Senates, which come from each state and their district, they have to participate in ratification. In other words, what they're saying here in this first part is, whenever this thing called the Constitution on the federal level is changed by us, Constitution on the federal level is a treaty with which we came together to create, and then whenever we change it, a joint resolution proposing a ratification of such proposed amendment shall be considered by both houses of the General Assembly of this state. And in the moment that we change anything on a federal level for the purpose of being in unity with the treaty that we're a part of, and this exists in all states, we will now do our own session to consider what was done on a treaty level. See, each state is a country of its own within the continent of North America. They come together and created a separate body politic as a form of treaty, as a uniform mind called the United States of America. And the document that governs that uniform mind in modern time as of 1791 is called the United States Constitution. And whenever that one mind that each state came together to behave as, whenever it modifies their founder document as of modern time, whenever it changes, they're saying we'll change it also. This is the functional part of incorporation doctrine that you're looking at. It goes on to say, and by the way, joint resolution, as we went over in the past in the 16 stages of how laws are made. Joint resolution is basically the session where they come together to determine whether they should pass a law or not. So you see how all this is added together. Such joint resolution to ratify the congressional proposition meaning on the United States level, joint resolution meaning on the state level. Such state level gathering to ratify ratification or to ratify is the process of making law. So in layman's term, it says such coming together to make the law that the Congress on a federal level that we've contributed and participated in by proposition to amend the Constitution of the United States shall be validly adopted by the General Assembly of this state only if it receives the favorable vote of a constitutional majority of the members of each house of the General Assembly. In summary, what they're saying is whenever we participate in that treaty called the United States Constitution and we change anything in it, we're gonna now consequently change the state level constitution to be harmonious with it so it has similar language. That's basically what this says. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a functional aspect of what incorporation doctrine looks like, and how and why you will look at a state constitution and a federal constitution. Yeah, sure, the article and section might be different, but the language of each right, like the Bill of Rights, will be synonymous. This is why such system exists. This is a functional aspect of incorporation doctrine. And this is just one state. This is just Illinois General Assembly legislature. Similar equivalents exist in each other state. Point in case is this. While you, the everyday man and woman, barely getting by, still in survival mode, while you're still stuck in the concept of being an alpha male or an alpha female, or being a beta male or a beta female, the people that are kicking your ass comprehend that all that concept of alpha male, alpha female is for the animals, it's for the dogs, it's for the sheeps, it's for the cats. What they're doing through incorporation doctrine, Judicata, they are coming together. They are truly using what a republic is. Look up the definition of a republic. They have subrogated the whole thing and turned themselves into the people and are using incorporation doctrine to homogenize things on a state and federal level, as though the state does not have its own sovereign power. And they are controlling those who oil the wheel of serfdom. See, the concept of alpha male or alpha female is a very minuscule, a very small chunk of the totality of how control exists. Those who take control know that control has to be taken by working together, not that you push someone's head down for you to get yours. People who are wealthy know that. People who are really spiritually inclined know that. Those who run governments know that. The only one left out of the equation is the silly and dumbfounded, simple-minded, everyday man who is just still stuck this concept that they have to be the one to get theirs off by all means necessary. They don't comprehend the totality of things. These people do, and they're putting it to use. That's basically what incorporation doctrine is. So ask yourself this question. Ask yourself whether you are a slave to your own thoughts and the things that you've accepted as true. Granted, there's always exceptions to these things, always exceptions. The majority of the people who say that they have rights, or those that don't even think about rights, think about it on a mundane level. Are you being detrimental to yourself for that thing that you hold on to so much, that animalistic nature? A mere pen and paper. The pen is mightier than the sword. They're using that mere simple flimsy pen and paper to dominate your life. Yet, there you are talking about you're being alpha male and alpha female. Okay, keep it up. Keep it up. And keep being dominated by pen and paper. Pen and paper used by those who comprehend the totality of what it truly means to be empowered. Why they give you little small chunks so that you could just get your rocks off, so that you could just satisfy that quick impulse, so that you could just get yours off. You keep getting yours off, you keep satisfying that impulse, and see whether it benefits you or your children in the future. Bitter truth does not always sound appealing, especially if it's applicable. But someone who loves you will tell it to you. At least someone is telling it to you. Those people that will not tell you this truth relating to the stuff people have generally accepted and how it ultimately affects them in ways that are so subtle that most people don't even read or even are aware of it all. Those people who don't want you to know this, those are the people stealing your pensions. Those are the people making sure that that minimum wage stays minimum wage. Those are the people making sure that taxes are going up in every way. Property taxes, sales taxes, gas prices. When you listen to the conversation of poor people, they're going to speak of what's going on in the outside economy. Oh yeah, everything is so high now. They talk about it with such joy, like it's good to be a slave. It's not all right to be a slave. It's not all right to have a false sense of power and some pathetic aspect of life just so you could go be someone else's hoe. Stop and think about that. Does that really make you strong or weak? You better start being competent. Till next time, take care. Best of luck.